You're watching ITG Clips.
Jed, you have been fortunate enough to get an early look at some of these spring practices, and obviously, you're about as intimate as one could be with Rich's coaching style and how he runs practices. You've played for him, you've been around his teams before, now around his teams again. So obviously, before we get into any specifics and exact examples, just I got to imagine it's been like a I don't know, like a combination between like Groundhog Day and like Pinch Me. Is this really happening as you walk back into the facilities and Rich is running the show again?
Well, Rich is still Rich. There's no doubt about that. And a lot of the guys around him haven't changed much either. They're true to themselves. Okay. It's more interesting to me that to watch Rich around the kids and his interaction with the kids and how he handles the kids and how he coaches the kids and how he gets a message across to the kids. I mean, Rich is always going to be that guy with veins popping out. He's just intense. And that part hasn't changed. The modern game hasn't changed him in that sense. But I find myself, again, especially when I watch him handling the group at large in team settings, like at the end of a team setting, when he's trying to drive home his message, I'm asking myself, it's the same, but it's different. What is different? And I was struggling to put my finger on it. How has Rich changed? And not just in the 30 plus years since I played for him and coached with him, thereabouts, but even perhaps since Owen played for him. And Owen might be popping in here any moment now. We're hoping he can make it. But the biggest thing I can come up with is this: the hard edge. Okay, first of all, that's more of a contemporary term. It's a brand of his.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember when he first started using that phrase itself in the last, couple handful of years. I don't remember particularly.
I was gonna say, like, I remember spot the ball and I remember hold the rope plenty from the first, but I don't remember hard edge being a thing the first
that
time
phrase is more contemporary with him. So many years. He might have had it at Arizona. But anyway, the larger point is this: the hard edge, no matter what you wanted to call it, has always been there. No doubt about it. But the difference is, when I played for him, and I think to an extent when Owen played for him, it was more incidental, if that makes sense. In other words, it happened just by virtue of how he did everything he did, how he installed an offense, how he installed a defense, how he coached you every day, how he ran a meeting. Everything he does, the way he does it, he can't help but give you a hard edge. But it was just a byproduct of how he did everything. It wasn't like something that was at the forefront and a topic of conversation. And we got to be tougher, and we got to. It was just we knew we were going to be. We knew incidentally we were going to have a hard edge. We might not have called it that, but we knew what he meant. I think what's happened over the arc of time in watching him now, he started to identify not just how meaningful that piece is in the hierarchy of things, but I think he's come to recognize it as the central piece in all things. He's come to recognize that that's the culture that wins him football games. That hard edge. And he came up with a name for it, again, however many years ago. It's been there ever since he first started coaching and put a whistle around his neck. We might not have called it hard edge, but we all
absolutely.
But he started to recognize at some point, as he became a more mature coach, and there's a certain wisdom to him. It's hard to explain. When I see him getting his message across to the kids, it's the same, but it's different. And it is far more intentional, this message of what a hard edge is and the role that it's going to have to play. Because, I was talking to a staff member, and we're like, look, I don't know how you'd quantify this or itemize it, but if you're to look at, okay, what percentage of Rich's gains, again, he took over, we discussed this ad nauseum on this program, and we'll talk about it more as we move forward, but the program he took over at Glenville was in complete disarray. It was either drop football as the lowest funded program in the entire nation at the NAI level, or give this young coach a chance that was just fired at Salem, right? The job that he did there, taking us to our first conference championship in 35 years and then going up 4-peat and just completely building a monster at Glenville State. I've asked myself, what percentage of those wins were because we out-schemed people, because he was, from an X's and O's standpoint, ahead of a lot of other people. He always was ahead of the curve. That's why he's part of these books, these transcendental books about, 20 guys that influenced and shaped college football in the last 150 years, those types of things. Like the John Bacon book, where he did the chapter on us in Glenville with the zone read and all these types of things. From a zone scheme, not many people were doing what we did. And I've often told, I've talked to modern spread quarterbacks from Garrett on down the line saying, look, I don't think I could play today, because when I was playing and we were piling up these big numbers, teams had no idea how to defend us. They'd never seen this. I mean, we still had these big run-stopping downhill linebackers that were built for stopping ISOs, trying to play in space on my shifty slot Chris George. They had no idea what to do. So I just flip a quick screen to him. He goes 60 yards. So we were out scheming people. So what I asked myself is, what percentage of his success at Glenville was out scheming people? The toughness was there. Make no mistake. No mistake. We didn't call it hard edge, but it absolutely was there. It was probably a much higher percentage of our wins that came from out scheming people then, I promise you, than what he did at Jacksonville State. Now, again, among the nation's leading rushing teams, each year he was there, number 2 in the country a year ago. He's still putting up schemes that are tough to stop. There's a reason Zach Alley on the defensive side of the ball was such a critical piece to this staff. What he does is hard to contend with. What Zach Alley does is hard to contend with. The schemes still matter. But the percentage that I would attribute his success at Jack State is not nearly as high from a scheme standpoint that I would at Glenville, when we were just out scheming people. And oh, by the way, we were a tough team doing it, a really tough team doing it. The toughness itself is now winning more games than I think any part of the scheme or any X's and O's. That culture, and that's what he's leaned into, and he's recognized over the arc of time. He started to put together and piece together as a veteran, battle-tested coach who's seen just about everything there is to see now. That's what makes me different. Yeah, the zone read's great. The spread's great. The no-huddle's great. These innovative defenses are great. All these things are great. And you really have to pedal hard to stay ahead of the curve schematically in today's football. But the true secret ingredient to the sauce of his success is the culture, which is, basically that's a euphemism. It's synonymous with this hard edge. And he directly leans into it. That is the message he's conveying with the team. And quite frankly, I bet you if you asked him, if he accomplishes nothing but that this spring, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. Even if they only have half the scheme in, they're not comfortable with how they're repping it, whatever, how that looks, the ins and the outs. I mean, there's always going to be growing pains when you're installing new systems in all 3 phases. That's just the nature of the beast. But if the kids in the building can appreciate to any significant level the culture and what he wants to turn this into, the comings and goings of the roster will be just fine. Because we've said this on here before. I don't know who first said it, but I think it's an aphorism that fits this situation perfectly. If you populate your locker room with the right dogs, even the cats start barking. And that's what Rich right now is trying to do. And the culture is how you get there. Because what he was telling the team, he was even going through reps on the punt team. And he's like, look, part of what we got to do is coach and teach you on what soft is, on what's unacceptable. That's not a given. You might think something's not soft, and it absolutely is. So we have to define that for you and give you all the examples at all the positions. Softness comes in a lot of forms. It's not just getting knocked on your rear end, right? I mean, it's depending on what position you play, being soft can mean a host of things, a long list of things. And he said, none of which will we accept at any position. So right now, he said, I'm seeing some guys that are doing some of it. He said, but we're not ready until I see all guys doing all of it on every rep. And he was walking them through the reps on the punt team saying, sometimes I see guys, moving a body. It's hard to move a body. He said, this is the only game in which you're rewarded for being violent. You do these things out on the streets, you get arrested. You do it on the field, and you're a hero. People pay you money and cheer for you, and your name's going to be in lights. Take advantage of that. Take advantage of that. But the larger point's this: the consistent piece of that and understanding on every snap, every rep. That's what it's going to take for us to get there. And he said, what I see is sometimes guys leaning in, waiting on the whistle. You might move the guy out of the way, and then you think you're done. He said, what I don't see is somebody just bowing up and driving into somebody. He wants to pile drive their ass 200 yards up on that hill and bury them. He said, we will reach the point we need to go when I see every one of you doing every bit of that on every snap, and we're not anywhere near there. And it's just, I think he does a more effective job at conveying that message. Like, I remember back to when we would watch tape, he would do things that would just get under your skin, and it was by design. I mean, Owen's heard these phrases, I'm sure, but he would always tell us things like, you know why you're doing it that way, the wrong way? You know why you're doing it the wrong way? Hey, you know why you're not blocking backside? You know why you're not carrying out your boot play? Because it's easy. It's easy. Oh, you do it the easy way. And you'd hear him say that, and it would just grate on you. You're not doing it the right way. You're not carrying out your boots. You're not blocking backside because that's too hard. Oh, coach, I don't want to do it hard. I'm soft. I want to do it the easy way. It would just drive you crazy, but it was effective. And so he's just found, I think, more efficient ways to weaponize this message.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to ITG Clips and In the Gun podcast for more WVU football content. Watch the whole podcast episode by clicking the link above or in the description.